So do you want to move on to Leipzig then?
I think we got to.
We got to, yeah, because big news. We talked about this on December 17th on this podcast Behind the Paywall, that Leipzig are going to not only try, but probably get this across the line. The package turns out to be a lot smaller than we thought at the time. Xavi Simons is now a Leipzig player, no longer on loan. I talked to some people at Leipzig and I completely missed this at the time, but this was an option that was always part of the contract when they signed him on loan this summer for a second time. There was an option in place to make this deal permanent for 50 million euros. Now you will see reports out there that say 80 million euros. Take those with a grain of salt. That includes Xavi Simons is going to win the Ballon d'Or, 5 million euros, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like there is easy to reach options and buy-on clauses and all that kind of stuff, and then there's stuff like, oh, he's going to be the top scorer in the Champions League, like that kind of stuff. And so the fee that is being paid right now for Xavi Simons is 50 million euros, and that is the one that you have to keep in mind. I think more important than all these bonus payments that PSG can get is the sell-on. If RB Leipzig opt to sell Xavi Simons this summer or next summer, which they might have to because he's only on a contract until 2027, PSG will get a sell-on. So I think what's really interesting here is, and this is how this has been framed to me, Red Bull had decided this is a business decision. They want to keep this asset. But if Leipzig miss out on the Champions League, they also see this as something that they can cash in on, right? So his immediate future beyond the summer is really decided by what RB Leipzig will do on the pitch, is what I'm saying. If they make the Champions League, there's a chance that they can renew this contract, extend this contract, and keep him longer. If they don't, and I've been told by someone at Leipzig, look, there's a certain club playing in the Premier League who have Mo Salah under contract. Mo Salah could go to Saudi Arabia, and then they will need a replacement, and then they could pay a significant fee to sign Xavi Simons. Lots of moving parts, lots of ifs and buts again, but for now, Xavi Simons is an RB Leipzig player at least until 2027, maybe longer if they make the Champions League, and that, like it is the case with Dortmund, is a big but because they're currently on the outside looking in, right? Stuttgart is ahead of them in the standings, by same points, 32 both, but a better goal differential. So Leipzig have a lot of work to do if they want to make this Xavi Simons thing a permanent thing beyond the summer.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Liverpool. They absolutely adore signing Leipzig players. They signed Naby Keita for 60 million in 2018, Ibrahima Konate in 2021 for 40 million. Then, of course, Szoboszlai in 2023 for 70 million euros. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they went in for Xavi Simons this summer or next year at all. Yeah, you're right. It's a deal. It's obviously been structured in a way that basically PSG get to let him leave. He continues to develop as a player, continues to gain value, and then when he's sold, they still get something back for it. It's a huge deal for Leipzig to sign. Technically speaking, I think it's the third largest fee paid by a German club, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of my colleagues said anyway today. And I guess on paper, it's a sign of intent, that Leipzig are going out to sign a player who could very feasibly become a world-class player. I think he's probably already in the top 5 players in the league when he's fit and in form. Excuse me. And, as we said a few weeks ago, he is the difference between Leipzig being a team pushing for second place and snapping at Bayern's heels, and a team kind of languishing in 4th or 5th place. And it's as simple as that, really. So it's interesting that Leipzig have kind of gone out of their way to, I guess to a large extent, put their money where their mouth is, really. I'm just going to quickly check and see if they've actually made any other signings this month, because I feel like they have.
Yeah, Riedle Baku.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know there was one. Yeah, and Simons, of course, as well.
And
yeah,
I'm
and then of
hearing
course
they're not
Elmas
done.
left.
They're not done yet. So
Yeah, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, in the short term, it's great news for Leipzig. They can put to bed all this speculation about Simons and what's going on here and there, and he can officially call Leipzig home, because he has been the player that team has been built around for the last 2 seasons. And it was kind of weird that it was built around a team that, around a player who technically didn't, pick up his wages from Leipzig every week. So the fact that that's changed is obviously probably put some minds at rest. And as we've been saying for the last kind of couple of weeks now, with him back in that team, Leipzig can suddenly look back to kind of pushing for top 4, certainly securing top 4, and then seeing where else they can go from there. After putting behind a really difficult Champions League campaign. It just comes down to what happens in the summer and after that. We've talked on the show before about whether Simons could become this kind of poster boy for Leipzig in the way that, the F1 team have, what's his face, Max Verstappen.
Another Dutchman.
Another Dutchman. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you, because as you said, there's certain clauses in that contract that makes me think he's kind of signed on a dotted line and kind of unofficial handshakes with the club to say, I'll do what I can for Leipzig, but when Liverpool come calling with that offer for, 80, 90 million euros, I'm heading off, because that's the way things work at Leipzig. So it'll be interesting to see if him signing permanently actually moves the needle at all for them. I think it will in the short term, obviously, but in terms of him sticking around for the next 2, 3, 4 years and Leipzig building a squad capable of challenging for a league title is very difficult. And that's a bit of a shame. As one of our colleagues said to us in our group chat today, it'd be kind of fun to see Leipzig actually make the next step and become this kind of deliciously evil villain of the Bundesliga that obviously goes on to go toe-to-toe with Bayern and Leverkusen. And I think we all thought Simons signing permanently for the club would be an example of that. But the manner in which he signed his new contract, which obviously doesn't run very long and expires in 2027, suggests to me that it's just going to be a kind of short-term thing, and it's just going to be another Szoboszlai. It's going to be another Nkunku, situation. But we'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's been some confusion too on the term of the contract and why, if it makes any sense for Leipzig in terms of finances and how much money they could actually make. And there is this beautiful thing about financial fair play, Stefan, that when you sign a player for 50 million euros, you can basically take the transfer fee over the entire length of the contract and you write it off per year, which means this transfer fee is essentially the base transfer fee, which is what they have to pay. You can add
amortization,
yeah, exactly. It's just about 16.7 million euros a year, right? But if they then sell him for, let's say, 100 million euros to Liverpool, they get that fee all at once. That goes into the books all at once, and it is, you can call it what it is. It's cooking the books, but UEFA and financial fair play. Football isn't the only thing that does this. This is something that's coming from the corporate world from elsewhere, right? That if you're buying an asset, you can write it off the entire length of its existence.
It's not just that, but it's like here in the UK, like I'm a self-employed person, and if I buy a laptop, I'm supposed to, for the next 5 years or something, when I do my self-assessment form, I'm supposed to put in that asset over the course of those 5 years.
Yeah.
So it goes all the way down to the individual, all the way up to the top. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's an accountancy thing. You're right. Yeah.
So it's cheap to buy something. What I'm saying, it's cheap to buy something, and you get all the money all at once. So it is. So Leipzig will say, look, we sell this guy for 100 million. We get that all at once. We can put that on the books all at once and then spend it, right? Whereas when we buy him, we'll just write this off over the entire length of his contract, which now dates back to the start of this season, right? It's a 3-year deal. So it is what it is. This is just an accounting thing, but they are going to make money off this, even though it is a short-term thing. And I think that is something that is really important to keep in mind here. That it actually, if they have to sell them because they missed out on the Champions League, this still will help their financial fair play situation significantly.
Yeah, It will. I mean, I don't think Leipzig are in any real concern about financial fair play. I'm just quickly checking. I'm waiting for the page to load up on Transfermarkt to take a look at their income and expenditure over the last 5 years. But I hazard a guess to say that I think they're maybe second or third in the Bundesliga for net spend. In fact, they're not second because I know Wolfsburg are actually second, which have really flown under the radar recently. Dieselgate is well and truly in the rear-view mirror at that club because they are spending money like nobody's business these days. But yeah, look, Wolfsburg, Leipzig have made an obscene amount of money from transfers, in Kunku, Szoboszlai, Meccano. All these guys spent a huge amount of money. So I don't think there's any concern about them having to kind of, spread things over certain years or anything like that. And I think, Leipzig have just it's a very straightforward sum for them. They just say, yeah, we spend 50 million euros to sign him now. We sell him for 100 million euros in a couple of years. We have to give 20 million of that to PSG or whatever else. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. In fact, I've got open now. In the last 5 years, Leipzig's net spend is 53 million euros in profit. So they've spent 555 million, which obviously includes the Xavi Simons deal, and they've earned 608 million in transfer income. So they're in the green in that regard already. So I don't think there's any huge concern about that. But yeah, it makes financial sense for Leipzig to sign him. As we said, it just comes down to whether it actually changes anything from a sporting point of view. And, they'll have to now go out and prove that because, Leipzig have completely bombed out the Champions League. And their only real hope now is to kind of get to the top four and to regain that trust and that respect.
And I mean, they have a really difficult fixture this weekend. To keep with the preview character of the show, they are playing Union Berlin with a head coach who has never defeated RB Leipzig in his entire career. His 7 failed attempts, and I'm getting this from the Bundesliga.com app, include a 6-0 hammering at the Red Bull Arena while he was in charge of Cologne in 2023. He's also never beaten Marco Rose either as a head coach. So, things haven't been great with Stefan Baumgart in charge at Union Berlin, just the one win. Also, and as I pointed out, in fact, since Stefan Baumgart left his former club, Hamburger SV, they have gone from strength to strength. So, if you're questioning Stefan Baumgart as a head coach, you just need to see the results at the new club and the results at the old club. And it's not exactly worked out in his favor, has it? So, this is a big game, I think, for Union Berlin, who are slowly but surely tumbling down the table. Only 6 points from the relegation playoff spot. St. Pauli are now ahead of them in the standing, and St. Pauli, of course, beat them last weekend, right? And now Leipzig come to town. You would say maybe the Klassenfeind, a team that is all about corporate identity, etc. Also from East Germany, of course, but with a very different history. And then you have this Union Berlin club that's a very deeply rooted East German football club, but which was anti-establishment back in the GDR. So this is a game that is loaded to begin with, and also for both teams very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like if you look at the form table, Union Berlin are sitting bottom on 3 points, but Leipzig are only just above them on 5 points. And that's points won over the course of the last 5 games. I think it'd be a really interesting game because obviously Baumgartner plays a very attacking style of football. And I think I don't know if they'll fancy their chances, but I think they'll probably think they have to try and take something from Leipzig in this game. Leipzig at home away form this season hasn't been great at all. They've only picked up 4 wins from 10 games. Haven't won any of the last 3 games. They've only won 1 of the last 5. They've been pretty poor, to be perfectly honest with you. They obviously that Bochum game wasn't that long ago where they were 3-0 up, I think, and came back to 3-3. They lost 2-1 to Stuttgart. It's a game I watched where Xavi Simons' first game back, I think, from his injury, sets up a goal in the first 10 minutes, and then Stuttgart just go on to kind of control that match. And then before that was a 5-1 thumping from Bayern Munich. So their away form is really quite alarming, actually. But this is exactly the kind of match that Leipzig now have to win and prove. They're like, yeah, look, we made the money, we spent the money, we've got the stars. There's really no excuses now. They've got a lot of their players back from injury as well. David Ram's back, game changer for them as well. and they're up against an Union Berlin side who are, immensely struggling as well. So anything but 3 points from this game, I think, would be a bit of a travesty for Leipzig. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be a really interesting game. And yeah, we'll have to see. There's some other good games too. Frankfurt, Wolfsburg, Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, Frankfurt and Hoffenheim in big Europa League matches today as we record. We'll probably go and touch on them in the main show, see how the results pan out on next week.